Instead of looking for good deals this season, get deals that will make you look good. Get custom-made clothing from Indochino. Black Friday runs November 18th to December 1st, and their cyber sale goes from December 2nd to 8th. Door Crasher shirts start at just $49, and custom suits start at $329. You can even snag discounted bundles and save on outerwear and accessories. Upgrade your closet on Black Friday from November 18 to December 1st, and the cyber sale from December 2nd to the 8th, all at Indochino.com.
Welcome to episode 118 of the Sisters in Loss podcast. October is here, and it is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. Join us all month long as we honor and celebrate our babies who have gone to heaven far too soon. Pregnancy and infant loss is not only a United States epidemic, but it's a worldwide concern. Today's guest is from the continent. Yes, that continent that many think is a country, the continent of Africa. She experienced a stillbirth at 32 weeks in her home country of Zimbabwe. In this episode, Chiedza Makwara shares how pregnancy loss is still a taboo concept in Zimbabwe, how she experienced depression and PTSD after her loss, and how she is using her blog and platform to bring awareness to stillbirth. Here is my Zimbabwe sister, Chichi, on this episode. You're listening to the Sisters in Loss podcast, a faith-based grief and loss podcast for Black women, where you will hear stories of miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, and infertility to learn there is a testimony in tragedy. You will learn how to heal, gain clarity, find hope and peace, and turn your pain into your purpose after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee. Welcome to episode 118 of the Sisters in Loss podcast. October is here, and it is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. Join us all month long as we honor and celebrate our babies who have gone to heaven far too soon. Pregnancy and infant loss is not only a United States epidemic, but it's a worldwide concern. Today's guest is from the continent. Yes, that continent that many think is a country, the continent of Africa. She experienced a stillbirth at 32 weeks in her home country of Zimbabwe. In this episode, Chiedza Makwara shares how pregnancy loss is still a taboo concept in Zimbabwe, how she experienced depression and PTSD after her loss, and how she is using her blog and platform to bring awareness to stillbirth. Here is my Zimbabwe sister, Chichi, on this episode.
Well, thank you, Chiedza, for being on the podcast all the way from Zimbabwe.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Erica, for having me.
So let's begin. Share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. As I said, I'm Chiedza Makwara. I am an entrepreneur and a managing director for a logistics company. I am an author. I'm actually best-selling in my country. My novel is called Bongile, Journey to Redemption. And funny enough, it does touch a bit on child loss. I'm also a talk show host for a TV show that talks about social issues, gender-based violence, gender stereotypes. What else do I do? I'm a playwright now because the book has been adapted into a play or is being adapted into a play. And yeah, I'm a businesswoman. That's me. My journey is I was pregnant last year and the year before. When I was 32 weeks, I had a stillbirth. I just went to the doctor for a regular checkup to my gynae, and there was no heartbeat. And from there, everything just spiraled down and everything just spiraled out of control, really, because I was so expectant. I was so excited about this baby. I was having a baby as a single parent. And just to hear this news, I was absolutely devastated. So my story is I got to the doctor. I was told there's no heartbeat. I had to go somewhere else to have a scan and to check. And they confirmed that the baby had died. I was told that I needed to deliver the baby. There was not going to be a C-section. I was actually going to push the baby out. and which I went and I did. The following day, I actually had to go home pregnant and knowing that my baby had died and spending the night and then going to the hospital the next day. I went the next day and I delivered this beautiful baby boy, and he had a cord tied around his leg. And right after the delivery, I was told I had to go into surgery. And if I didn't do the surgery, I was going to die because the umbilical cord was stuck. So right after I delivered him, I didn't even get a chance to hold him. I went straight into the surgery and I woke up and this baby had been taken away. And that's sort of the beginning of my story.
So is it customary in Zimbabwe after your baby dies, do they allow you to hold him and spend some time with him before they go through like a burial process? Take us back on those next few steps after that.
Okay, so because it was my first time, I had no idea. I was with my mom and my aunt. I think these are my thoughts, and just knowing how my mom reacts to stress and certain situations and how very traditional she is. So Zimbabwe is a little bit, we're in a third world country. Things are a lot slower than they would be compared to, first world America, the UK, and people really adhere to traditional practices, if you know what I mean. So I think my mom told the nurses to take the baby away, for me not to see the baby. And I think at that time, she thought that she was doing the best thing for me. Having asked other women who had lost babies and just other people in society, they're like, no, you're not supposed to see the baby. It will traumatize you and this and that. I wanted to see them. I wanted to hold him and, just spend time with him in that regard. And I never got a chance to. And that's one of the things that really, really disturbed me. And one of the things that I can't get over. It's exactly a little over a year, sorry. And I still can't get over that moment of me not holding him and, just giving him the extra love. I had a small funeral for him 2 days later. I got to see him. He was so flimsy and frail. I couldn't hold him. If I'd held him, he probably would have just broken into pieces. So I just kissed him, and that was my final goodbye. And he was taken to be incinerated.
Wow. So I completely empathize with you not being able to hold him and be able to actually spend some time with him before he, actually went through the burial process. So really, after that, you all had the funeral, and how was the grieving process was like? How did your mom, your aunt support you as you started to grieve that loss of your baby?
Wow, because I am quite known. I had the word spread out very, very quickly. So it was very overwhelming with all the phone calls. And I cut off a lot of people very quickly because I don't think I could deal with just all the grievance losses. My mom and my sister moved in with me. I didn't eat for days. I think I didn't eat for about 4 days. And then the one day, this might sound crazy, but I think I literally heard God saying to me, if you don't eat today, you're going to die. That's when I started eating. I was so devastated to the point where I couldn't even bath myself. My sister would just grab me and bath me. She found me in the bathroom, just crying, naked. I think I'd been there for hours and I just couldn't bath. I think I took off my clothes to get into the tub and I just fell apart. So having family and having my sister there and my mom there was a world of help to me because I don't think I would have ever gone through that initial week, the first week or the second week without them. So your biggest support, I guess, is your family and your closest friends. You need someone with you. Just going with it alone, I don't think anybody should or anybody could. Like I said, my partner was not active in the pregnancy. So here I was. I only had these 2 people and others, but I did close them off. And they absolutely helped me with everything.
Awesome. Nothing like having your village really to support you through that and be there for you. So how was your relationship with your faith, with God, as you began to grieve and heal and just go through, the first week, the first month, now being the first year after your son has passed away? Really take us on that journey, how it has been, how your faith has been throughout that journey.
Oh my God, Erica, this is That's a really good question, because I think I'm just on the journey now of starting to believe again. So I'm a Christian, and everything about me was centered around God, and I really felt let down. I felt like, God, I've helped so many people through their different trials. I've been there for people. I've looked after orphan kids. I've said everything in your Bible. I was prepared to look after this child. I've adopted kids. I've fostered kids. And this is not supposed to happen to me. I was down. I couldn't pray. I was so mad at the people who would come and give me verses. Sometimes I felt like it was just Bible bashing, because I was so angry with God, and I couldn't understand why this had happened. It was such a mix of emotions, of anger, pain, humiliation, because I felt humiliated, like, oh, you're so great. This thing has happened to you. Who do you think you are, a child of God? Something like this can happen to you. I felt small. I felt like I'm not worthy. Everything that I prayed so much for this child, and it seemed like my prayers meant nothing. It was all void because the baby didn't make it. So I felt really let down. Moving from that, I had a lot of people pray for me. Even when I couldn't pray, I think their prayers carried me through this. Their prayers are still carrying me through this. Right now, I'm still on the journey. I can't say I'm 100% back. I still have a lot of questions. I still have a lot of anger. It's a little bit of a fight. Like, God, I've known you to be there for me all my life, and you and I are cool, and you're God. You have my back. But then on the flip side of it, it's like, you let me down. That one thing that was mine, I don't have anymore. And yeah, so that's where I am. But I'm a lot better than I was. I was at a point where I didn't want to pray. I didn't want to hear about God. I was like, I'm not in this Christian care anymore.
Yes. Oh, man, you articulated so well on how most women feel, especially women who have a relationship with God and just, really felt let down. Share with us how it is as a culture. A lot of women from the continent that I've interviewed before have told me that there is a cultural aspect to it as well, where, going back to work, going back to your new normal, where people knew you were pregnant. Now you don't have that baby physically in your arms. And what I've realized through some interviews is that there's some shame and there's some stigma amongst that, because, as women, you are considered, a fertile being. You are supposed to produce life and have this life that comes for us. So share with us from your culture, how has that been for you as you got acclimated back to your new normal?
That's an amazing question, because that is true. All the women who did share that, there's a lot of stigma around it. People don't talk about this. Like, it's even a taboo to talk about it. Even like how they even say, I'm sorry for your loss. The older generation will say something like, oh, there's no baby. They'll say it when it's said in my language, it sounds a lot kinder. It's supposed to be meant a lot kinder. So I don't know how I can say it to sound the same way in English, but it's basically saying there's no baby. So let's not talk about it. Let's move on. We're not going to talk about this because, and you're almost not supposed to cry so much for this baby, and you're supposed to just get over it. And then you're supposed to just get pregnant like tomorrow, the next day. That's their remedy for dealing with it. It's a lot of stigma. I realized recently I wrote an article regarding my journey with this pregnancy loss. And when I posted it on Facebook and on Instagram. I got hundreds of messages in my inbox and on WhatsApp messages. And I realized so many other people had been through this, and they don't know how to talk about it because it's a hugely shameful thing, and finally somebody had talked about it, and they were still not comfortable enough to say, me too, on open platforms that just go and kind of hide in the inbox and say, oh yeah, I went through this, or I can't conceive, and this and that, and hurts me, and that breaks my heart, because how are we supposed to get over things if we're not supposed to talk about them? Why is it so shameful? It happened, I didn't want it to happen, but it's happened, So that's it. That's the stigma. And also just statements like, oh, at least you can have, or you can get pregnant, or you can carry. I just don't think that's helpful to anyone to say stuff like that, or to kind of console saying stuff like that. And that's our traditional thing, like, oh, you can get pregnant, so why don't you do it again? That's my take on it.
Yes, I understand that. So how are there any like tools or resources that you use as you have gone through your journey of healing? I know that you probably found this platform like through the internet. Is there some other, websites or any groups on Facebook that have helped you in your journey? Or is there anything like in your local community that really focuses on infant loss or advocates for women so they can be able to come together and share their stories and get some type of healing just from hearing other women share?
I struggled, Erica, because there's one or two places. The first place is the church. But when you are in a position that I was in, after grieving and feeling so angry with God, you don't want to go to because our society, our remedy for everything in my country really is go to church. And there's so many different types of church. I didn't feel like I wanted to at that moment. And then the other one was, then there are a few counseling sessions. There's one called Christian Counseling Center. It wasn't really helpful to me. I think I tried one session. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was personal. I tried another place where it's a hospice, where I felt the counselor she was kind of rushing me, even looking at a time to see, well, is our hour over? It wasn't personal. So what I did is I went online and I found someone online. I wasn't looking. I just kind of liked what she was posting, saying, look, I'm a clinical psychologist and I'm in the UK, but we can talk. And I just liked her page. And then we started chatting. And then I signed up to her and she's in the UK. We started doing video counseling together. It was amazing. She was amazing. She is based in the UK. She was very affordable. And she just took me on this great journey. And I really, I haven't thanked her yet, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So I did that for a time and I felt a little bit better. And then I moved on. What also helped me was just the other women who'd been through the same experiences. So many reached out when they heard of what had happened to me. I think I had over 40 women just reaching out and telling me their stories. And they understood better than my family, better than my friend, and just better than anybody what I was going through. And that really helped me a lot.
Awesome. That's good that you were able to get some type of counseling and resources, even though it was online. I think that we all have that same cultural thing. Even in the States,
really?
A lot of people tell us to go to church. And, they don't really think about the mental health perspective of it. Yes, we should go to church. Yes, we should pray. Yes.
Yeah, but the mental health aspect.
But that mental health aspect is something that we all have to work on and all have to continue to grow towards, because it's a mental thing where it's expectations, the loss of the expectations that we will not have as we continue to progress through life and continue to have those anniversaries come up. We have to learn how to deal with all of the triggers that are around us that could pull us back into those deep, dark places of grief.
True. Okay, so I don't talk about my loss in the book. I was talking about somebody else's loss. And the book happened a year before my loss, which is so ironic because I never imagined that I could go through the same thing, and I wrote a bio on somebody it's a bio / a novel of somebody with a baby who dies on a bus. So she's a rural woman. She's in a bus and her baby dies and she's in this bus going back to a rural home. And the book is sort of explaining to us how she got into that position where she's holding a dead baby on a bus. It's really just unraveling her life story. So writing that book was just so sad. When I heard the story, I immediately knew that I wanted to write this book, and it was so impactful. It was a bestseller. People loved it. And a year later, that happens to me. Not exactly the same thing, obviously, but just the thought of just losing a baby. So I still have questions. Again, someone said to me, maybe you writing about that story with the lady with the dead baby, on a bus kind of triggered something similar to happen to you, something about energies and connecting. And I just struggled with that a lot, but it was someone else's perspective, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with what they meant by what they said, but I do. I don't know if I agree with that But it's interesting that, that you shared her story. Like you were helping her get her story out. And now, I have the opportunity to share yours. So it's full circle in that regard where, you were able to share someone else's story. And then now you get to do the same thing on this platform. And I consider that a blessing and in a full circle moment in regards. I don't know if I agree with the other statement though.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I definitely didn't agree with that. I just thought, oh, this is very interesting that I then asked my counselor, I was like, oh, someone said this and that. When you're in a vulnerable situation, everything that everybody says to you at that time, you take so personally and you want to connect everything. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So everything that was said to me, I wanted to just unravel, say, what do they mean? Did I cause it? Should I have not written that book? Or should I have not spoken to that book? Should I stay away from this and that? Should I have stayed away from this? But I think it has a lot to do with also your state of mind. We go back to mental health. When you go through a devastating life moment, that's the first place I think you need to deal with your mind, because your mind is all over the place. And when people speak into your life, take everything personally, can be detrimental. I think that's how other people commit suicide and stuff. Yeah, that's my take.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think that that's exactly what you are vulnerable. You are open. And if you are in the right mental health space, that it will take you to a place that you don't want to go. And sometimes it's hard to recover from. So Can you share some of that? Share some of the things. I think, culturally, I think a lot of women, I want to show the differences or the similarities, because really, to be honest with you, it's probably going to be the same kind of things that people say to you. What are some of the things that people have said to you that have been, hurtful or just been, insensitive culturally in Zimbabwe? Because I think a lot of the people in the States and the UK who listen to the podcast can relate. So give us some examples of some of the things, and maybe it's, the translation, like you mentioned before, that there may be a translation thing that you can't do, but you can probably tell us how it is meant, I guess, in the English language. What are some of those hurtful things that
the biggest one, I think, I hear you. I think that the one thing, I suppose, for me, it was just that one thing that I can translate very easily. It was actually, maybe it was even in English, was she shouldn't have shared the pregnancy. So I did a pregnancy photo shoot and pregnancy announcement. And in our culture, it's very taboo. When you have a pregnancy, you're supposed to hide and never come out because people will witchcraft your baby. So I struggled with that because I was like, I'm a woman of God. My baby's going to be fine. I was very open with my pregnancy. I shared my pregnancy journey on Facebook. Pictures are still there and this and that. And people were like, don't share your baby, don't share your pregnancy, you shouldn't have shared your pregnancy because people's intentions and this and that. And then I didn't listen. And then that happened. And then afterwards it was like, oh no, don't ever share. This is why people don't share. And a lot of people don't share. Some people actually don't have baby showers. Even when I had a baby shower, my mom was like, oh, we don't do baby showers because, if she told me some story about somebody at a baby shower and then some really, really just crazy stuff, honestly. So, yeah, I think that's the main one. And I still am a bit like to myself, maybe I should have listened and not shared. And when I see people are pregnant and they don't share their pregnancy, or I hear that somebody had a baby and they don't share, I almost feel like, oh, so I was the bad example, sort of. I don't know. Am I making sense?
No, you're making perfect sense, because I have home health nursing for my son. He has a disability, and one of his nurses is from Kenya, from Nairobi. And she always used to mention to me, because she had just had a baby, and I was just like, are you going to have a baby shower? And she's like, no, we don't do that. And and she was just like, we have, we do the shower or the naming ceremony after the baby's born.
Exactly.
Because of that cultural thing. And I was just like, it's different in America. We normally have a shower before the baby's born to celebrate the baby's arrival, not when the baby actually comes, because of that stigma. And I thought, so I think that's interesting and to point out to people. And it's still something that you're working through and that you're healing from. that, sometimes people don't think that you should have something before the baby actually arrives. But I definitely think that that's very interesting and a good dynamic to kind of understand how, the different cultures are and how we celebrate our children. So what other, I guess my last question to you would be, what encouraging word can you leave the mom that's out there that's listening, that has had a stillbirth and is really on that journey to healing? What encouraging words can you leave them?
I wish I had thought about what I would say to them a lot way before this, but just off the top of my head, I just want to talk about the journey, that it's a journey, don't rush yourself. Every step at a time, every one step at a time, and every win, no matter how small, is a win. Even just getting out of bed, like there are times when I just couldn't get out of bed, and just getting out of bed was a win. Then there are times when I just I remember a week after it had happened, I had to go back to work because I ran my own business, and I went with my business partner and we were trying to buy uniforms for our staff. And there was this woman with a little baby. I was devastated, But when I got home, I celebrated because I said, oh, I made it through that moment. So every moment, every small step is a win. It's an incredibly lonely journey. You might have people around you, family and friends, which is great. You need them. But it's so lonely because when you go to bed, even when you have your partner or husband or whatever, if you do next to you, in your mind, that's all that's happening. So you sort of need to just breathe and work through those thoughts process by process. Don't rush it. My next thing would be, it's important to talk about how you feel, how you really feel. In my journey, a lot of people close to me did not and do not understand. I had to go to people outside of me and communities and people who had actually gone through the same thing or similar things. And that's a safer space because, they're more open to hearing it. They know the journey. So they're sort of like not going to expect you to just get over it just like that. So that's that. My last thing is, in my instant, there was a lot of isolation. I'm also dealing with, I think, the depression of it all. I've realized that I have. So I've isolated myself and I'm a completely different person than I was a year ago. I don't know if that's a terrible thing. The part where it's good is that I realize it and I'm okay with it. The part where it's bad is it's not good to over-isolate yourself and sort of like hiding. So you need to just find that balance. Yeah. And when it comes to God, it's a journey. It's a step at a time. He is God. So it's a relationship. So you need to, like any relationship, work at it, and don't ever feel like you're not allowed to be angry or to be mad or, if He is a person and He is God and He is the Almighty, He will understand those emotions and you guys will work through it step by step in your journey, not in somebody else, not with the pastor's journey or your family's journey. I think I've said a lot, but that's me.
No, that everything that you said was awesome. So thank you, Chichi, my new Zimbabwe sister, for sharing your story and sharing your life with me. I appreciate it, and I can't wait till you come to the States and we can connect and we're gonna meet up.
I cannot wait. I'm definitely going to email you tomorrow. I won't email today, and I'll tell you my dates. I'd love to meet you. And even if you're, like you said, you're 3 hours away, I think I could just get on when I'm in Washington, get on a bus and see you.
I'm not going to make you come to me. I'm going to definitely drive to you. So we're going to make it work. And
This is so exciting.
No, it's exciting. It's a blessing, and it's a blessing to have you on the show, to share your story, share your light, to share your journey with us. And
so where do I find out more about you? Of course, there's the page, but where else do I I want to know more. What's your story? Why did you start this? Like, I want to know everything.
Yes, absolutely. And we can chat with that online. So where can we find you? I want the ladies to be able to contact you if they have any questions or they just want to reach out, especially since, you are influential in your community. Give us your social media handles. Where can we find you on Facebook and Instagram?
Okay, so on Instagram, I am at Chiedza Makwara. So that's CHIEDZA. then Makwara. So it's Chiedza Makwara. And then on Facebook, that's the same. If you look for me, Chiedza Makwara. And then I have a website, www.chiedzamakwara.com. So everything is just under my name. So I hope that they can get in touch.
Awesome. Yes. So thank you again for sharing your story with us. I know the women of the Sisters in Loss community will be blessed.
And I'll continue to I don't know how I unfollowed. I just refollowed. I'll continue to follow you guys and to just be a part of the community. Thank you so much for the good work you're doing. You don't know how important it is and how much it's just saving lives, because it's definitely saving mine. So thank you, Erica, for this. And I can't wait to meet you.
Awesome. You're so welcome.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. For show notes, go to ericaandmcafee.com/podcast. Have you joined the Sisters in Loss online community? If not, join us online at sistersinloss.mn.co. That's where you get all of the tools and the resources and freebies from each of the episodes. I can't wait to talk with you all in the online community. If not, until next time, we will see you next week.